Hi, I'm Professor Lannis. I'm going to be your instructor for E371 this fall semester, Introduction to Applied Econometrics. So we're going to be using a program throughout the entire semester called Stata. I'll talk about it, show you what it looks like the first week. I've got some materials on Canvas that can, hopefully kind of help you step by step walk through how to get the program downloaded. But I thought this would be a good additional resource to have to kind of walk you through that. So there we go. So I put up this file on Canvas called Stata Download Steps. Hopefully for most of you, this kind of works here. If not, we may have some additional steps you might reach out to me. But for 99% of you, these links should work. Right. So anything I mention from here on out, if I mention signing in with credentials, it's your IU username and password. Okay. So only use your IU username and password here. You'll click on the link to download that program, Stata. And here it's Stata 19 is the newest version. You can also download the license, but once you download this, right, this zipped file, it might take a minute or two, so just be aware it might take some time. It'll look something like we're waiting this, right? So I go to my downloads folder. I can see here I've got this Stata 19 Mac DMG. I'll double click on that. Excuse me, that will download the program or start the process of downloading this to my computer. Along the way, it might ask me for three things. So I've got my serial number here. If I open up this license.txt file, it's got a serial number, a code, and an authorization code. So you'll have to use those along the process of when you run this DMG file to get that program downloaded to your device. All right. Now, once you do that, right, the program should be able to open up once we kind of go to access it eventually, which I'll show you how to do that in a second. But another issue we're going to have is once we open that up, we want it to be able to, excuse me, read and write to our OneDrive. It can't read and write to our personal device because, I don't know the exact behind the scenes, but IU is paying for it. And so in order to use that kind of license as a student, it can't access your personal device. So what you're going to have to do is give it access to your IU OneDrive. So many of you probably already have this turned on for other courses, but if you don't, the next steps would be go to this cloud storage on one.iu. So just search cloud storage. We're going to have to log in, IU credentials. Have to wait a little bit here. There it goes. Now I already have a green check mark here. That's eventually what you want. If you kind of click this little down arrow, if you don't have that green check mark, instead of deauthorize, it'll say authorize. You'll click on it. I think it just basically prompts you for your IU email address and what password again. And then it'll take a little bit of time, and then it should kind of return you here, and you'll see, okay, now I have a green check mark. This means that your IU OneDrive can now be accessed by those programs that are made available to you from being an IU student. So like I said, many of you might already have this authorized. Now, I think technically you can connect this to your personal OneDrive, but I know that it can create some issues with certain devices in terms of saving, and then people think they saved all their work, they close their computer, and now it's gone. So use that OneDrive for IU. That avoids a lot of those issues. Okay. So after we've got that authorized, kind of the next step would be to go back to one.iu. Now we're going to search for IU anywhere. So once again, this step, some of you might already have from a different course, but I did think a lot of people won't, at least my experience is that. So we'll search IU anywhere. We'll kind of go there. Now I've already got Stata kind of added to my homepage. You likely won't. So if you go to apps, we scroll all the way down here, you'll see kind of Stata 19, right? So we'll click on that. Once we had that downloaded from earlier, it should connect here. Gotta wait for a second. Sometimes can be a little bit slow. My internet connection has not been great today. So we'll go over here. I've got kind of the program running. I should be able to open files, save them now. So we'll walk back here because there may be an additional step that you need in order to be able to save, right? Save different things. So let's go up here. So if I'm on that IU anywhere, you'll see like your initials or I think just your last name initial. We'll click on that, click on account settings. We'll go down to tools. And then if you haven't already downloaded Citrix Workspace, for some people, I think simply going through the process we just did, it won't open up that program for you because you'll need this additional component. All right. So if you don't already have Citrix Workspace, you're going to need that. I believe it's already downloaded on my device. So walking through these steps, that's why I was able to open up the program. You likely won't be able to if you don't already have Citrix on your device. So you'll go through tools, right? Or account settings, tools. You can see it's here, one for Windows, one for Mac. I'll just click this one because I think it'll be, yeah. So you'll go to kind of download this file, right? The one for a Mac. You'll hit yes, I accept this. It'll kind of create this little thing up here, download it. So we're going to be waiting, waiting, we're waiting. Here we go, right? So kind of similar to before. Oh, it's a DMG file, so I've got two screens. So once I click on that, I'll go to install that Citrix Workspace app, right? Kind of similar to before. It'll walk me through it once my IU email address and password. So I'm not sure why it's asking me for this. Oh, here, because I can already have it downloaded. But if you don't, this is the steps that you'll want to go through to kind of get that installed. Now, once you have that installed, if it wasn't opening up the program before, now when you go back to IU Anywhere and you go to apps and state apologize for this. I've tried filming this a couple times and this keeps happening where it drops my internet. So we'll go back to IU Anywhere so you can make sure I'm not lying to you. Click on this. This is a kind of that Citrix program that's allowing me to access this like free license that the university has for students. So we're kind of waiting here a second for it. I think it's because my internet dropped. It has to kind of reconnect to everything. We're waiting, we're waiting. There it goes. So once we have that Citrix Workspace app downloaded, it should now allow me to access this. Okay. So there's going to be three windows that you typically want to have open when you're using this program. So this is just the program. We're going to use it to access different databases. So when you go to File Open here, it's giving me that there's restrictions on this computer. Okay. Um, it may prompt you with that. Don't worry about that. I'm just kind of getting here so that I can see that I need to get to my OneDrive. So that's the whole problem is it can't read and write to my device. So I need to make sure I go to my OneDrive. So here I go to 371. I've got a bunch of different data sets here. So notice the type, it'll say Stata data set. There's also do files. We'll talk about those here in a second. But if I just wanted to look at, I've got this like birth data by state. I click on that DTA file. It doesn't look like it opened anything up, but I've got two other things I need to look at. So here's the program. Here's the code that opened up that data file. So I'm going to go up here. There's these two little kind of window boxes. This one is going to allow me to edit data. We will not use that for anything in this class. We just want to observe the data set that we have. So I click on that. It's going to open up, and open up my other screen, the actual data. So I can see what state, year, and then these kind of three variables here. So this is going to be like your data browser, right? Where you can see the actual data set that you opened up with the program. Okay. So the third window that we're going to want is if we go over here, now you can go through File and Open, but there's also this little icon where you can kind of start a new do file. So if you wanted to, you can kind of hit that. It'll start a brand new do file just like you would start a new Word document. So once you have this, you can file, you can save as. Now, if I'm saving, I want to make sure that I'm saving to my OneDrive folder. If I save it to my personal device, it looks like it might save, but it goes away as soon as I close the program. Now I lost all the work that I did. So here, instead of kind of saving it here and having a blank file, this is like where we'll type our code. And we'll talk more about what the coding looks like and some different formatting of our do file in class. But just to show you what it would look like, so I'll go to File, Open again. I'm going to go to my OneDrive. I'm going to go back to those 371 files. Now here, when I'm going through the do file editor, that's kind of like the Word document I just opened. It only shows me the do files. All right, so it doesn't show me the data files. So I might have here, oh, let's see if I can find one. Well, interact, or actually, this is like the first week. So review of statistics. So it's got a bunch of different code. I can now see here's the code that I'm using. Here's the program. And eventually we'll talk week one more about how to run this code and how to get output displayed in the program. But for now, this is like where you'll save all of your work and all of your coding. The output from the program, that can't be saved, right? Or at least not seamlessly. So you'll want to save your coding in that do file editor. In order to view what changes you're making or what date your data set looks like, you look at that data browser, and then the actual program that is showing you the data and running your code is this third window. Okay. So that's kind of how to get started, kind of what Stata will look like once you get it working. Every device is different. This should work once again for 99% of you. Um, Let me see here. I want to stop my share, make it a little more personal. Um, so it should work for 99% of you. If you run into issues, like I said, every device is different. I can help you with some other things that I know. In fact, I put up a couple of Word documents like with some common um, issues that can arise even if you go through these steps. And if I can't ultimately help you, I'll reach out to the IT department and they've been able to solve any issue I've ever had or any student has ever had. So hopefully this was helpful. We'll want to get this program downloaded as quickly as possible. I'll start even showing you what it looks like on the second day of class, and then I'll start to expect you to be able to use it and follow along, as well as work on problem sets in that second week. So I look forward to kind of meeting all of you on Tuesday, and by the time you watch this, you might have already seen me by then.